Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Speaker, my question is directed towards the Premier. Maybe she'll answer my question. She would refuse to answer the member from Kitchener-Waterloo's question on SAMS. Transition's costs to fully implement SAMS are a staggering $52 million. Much of it is going towards fixing the program, and paying service managers for all their cost overruns. That money was not included in the government's original cost projections. A number of questions could be asked concerning this issue. Does the Premier believe that IBM, the software company responsible for SAMS, did a good job, or does she hold them responsible for the 2,400 serious system defects and the $140 million in benefit calculation errors? But here's the question that needs an answer. It is a simple question. Whose fault was it?
Question.
Government's or IBM's?
Thank you. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, as I've said before, we recognized that there were challenges with the initial implementation of SAMS. That's why we asked for a review, Mr. Speaker. We asked PwC to conduct a review and help us to improve the system. Following their report, we announced the implementation of a transition plan to address the outstanding issues with SAMS, Mr. Speaker. We've fixed 100% of the priority issues identified by frontline staff and 95% of the defects that were identified by the Auditor General, Mr. Speaker. So I think that it's a legitimate question for the opposition to ask: Have the challenges been fixed? Are people getting the service that they need, Mr. Speaker? And the answer to that is yes. We have addressed the issues, Mr. Speaker, and the services are being provided to the people of Ontario as they are required, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier hasn't held anyone accountable. But it gets worse. The government is rewarding IBM with a $32 million contract to service the same flawed software they created. Caseworkers and service providers are frustrated. But none of this money will be going to fix that because the government claims that priority problems have been fixed. I think service providers, caseworkers, and recipients would disagree. The Premier and the Minister have offered no apology. Moreover, the Premier has done nothing to restore anyone's trust in her and her government. Speaker, why hasn't she fired her minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's deal with the reality. The member opposite is talking about a maintenance contract, Mr. Speaker. As I said, we recognize that there were challenges with the rollout of SAMS. Those challenges, 100% of the priority issues that were identified by frontline staff, Mr. Speaker, and those are the challenges that obviously were the most egregious and needed to be addressed, and they have been addressed. The maintenance contract has nothing to do with the transition to SAMS or addressing the issues that arose during the initial transition, Mr. Speaker. It's a separate process. It's a routine contract to assist with the ongoing operation of the system, just as we had under the former system, Mr. Speaker, that had been put in place by the previous government, Mr. Speaker. You know, organizations of all types and sizes depend on professional, specialized IT services.
Well, I think the fingers can be pointed everywhere. You're not. Please finish.
We used an open, fair, competitive process, Mr. Speaker, for this contract, and we followed all of the procurement rules, Mr. Speaker. And the total cost of maintaining SAMS will be about $55 million per year, which is $5 million less, Mr. Speaker, than under the previous system. So there actually is a cost saving to that maintenance.
Thank you.